Welcome to the RecWired podcast. We've lucky to be joined by CRO extraordinaire of SourceWhale, Dougie Loan. Have I pronounced that right? Is it Dougie, Dougie?
See that this is the big dilemma, Andy. So it's Dougie to anyone outside of Scotland. If you're Scottish or from Glasgow, you would say Dougie. So like my family and stuff like that would be Dougie. But when I was first cold calling, I was calling people and saying it's Dougie from Odro, and they were like, "It's who from where?" And it just got too difficult. So I started saying Dougie, and then I only had to spell Odro. So that's where it changed.
Could be worse. And when I first started recruitment, we had a rule that if you had the same first name as someone else, you had to change it.
No.
I was because it was back then when you used to use the telephone. We were in a call center environment, and actually to say which Andy was just too much time. So
That is mad.
with a guy called Andy Hallett who founded Montash. So I had to change my name, and I didn't want to change my email address. So for a year, I was Austin Hallett until I moved to Reading, and I could reclaim my name.
That is amazing. An absolute rock star of a name, by the way.
Charlie
Um,
Cox is actually who worked with us at I worked with at S3 was originally James Cox. So his real name's James Cox and it's Charlie Cox. So feel your pain. Anyway, people don't want to
that's
hear
amazing.
about pseudonyms and names. For those who don't know you and obviously don't frequent LinkedIn and don't obviously look at any content whatsoever, what is it you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm CRO at Sourcewell. So Sourcewell is a business development and sourcing platform. So we essentially help recruiters automate the follow-ups, automate their admin, and essentially make sure that they're more efficient and effective with their candidate and client outreach. So I've been at Sourcewell now for 2.5 years, to just coming up 2.5 years. And then prior to that, I was 5.5 years at Odro, which is a video technology business. Started there as one of the company's first employees. And when I left, I was CRO. And then prior to that, did 3 years in recruitment. Obviously wasn't very good because I'm no longer in recruitment, but was good enough to stick it out for 3 years.
Recruitment years are like dog years though. So like three
Yeah.
three years in recruitment is like 21 years. So you've done
And software.
you've done pretty well to do that. So I first met you selling Odro when I was trying to sell
Yes.
a video product for S3 Showcaser, and always enjoyed bumping into you guys because you were always pretty fun. You copied Adam Gordon, started wearing kilts to the Rec Expos and the like, and
Absolutely.
always just really stood out. So yeah, pretty fun time there, I guess, at Odro.
Oh yeah, it was amazing. Like the journey, we always talked about it. In fact, and I'm sure we'll maybe touch on Ryan as well. But he'd always say to everybody, like, you guys don't realize that like this is a one-time thing. Like you'll go on and do other things that will be successful and everything else, but it won't be as fun as what we're doing here because it's totally bootstrapped, right? And we could do whatever we wanted within reason. So in a way, it was good because we could do that, but it also forced you to be creative. So when your marketing budget for an expo is like 400 quid, like yeah, I mean, like kilts is basically the best way to stand out if you've only got £400 for an entire team, right? And that was some of the ideas. And then it was hoodies or Lego men or whatever it might have been in times after that. But no, it was incredible, really good fun, loads of really good people as well at the time. And it's just I'm sure like you guys have all got it from the likes of S3 and stuff. Like you probably wouldn't have put all those people in the same room together. But you end up getting in the same room together, and that's probably what causes the fun over the years.
Must have been a big decision to leave there because it's going well, CRO. You must have seen something at Sourcewell that thought I need to get on this train.
Yeah, so interestingly, when I was leaving Odro, I wasn't lined up to come in to join Sourcewell. So, basically, what had happened was I'd been at Odro for 5.5 years. Business was going really well. It'd been a great journey. And when I joined Odro, I was really young. And to be fair, Ryan was great in taking a punt on me and taught me so much, right? And coached me and gave me lots of opportunities and really kind of like mentored me through that journey to get to where I got to. And then I kind of was getting to the point where I was like, I'd really love to like just test for myself that this wasn't like a one time like that I got
Mm.
lucky. Does that make sense? Could I actually take everything I've learned and go and replicate that and do it again? So yeah, it wasn't an easy decision at all. And Ryan and I obviously became best mates, so we spoke it through a lot, and he was really supportive of me. And the Sourcewheel one came about because I was mentoring our now VP of Sales, Ben. Just kind of helping him out a little bit with like different things, like just like some basic stuff that like as they were growing. And then when I kind of mentioned to him at that point, like, listen, I'm going to go and do something else, and some ideas about maybe my own business, etc. Those guys were like, whoa, 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 come and talk to us, and yeah, that was kind of maybe where it went from them there. But I mean, Sourcewell as a platform and a product's incredible. Great business, great product, good team. The potential to like run to the American market and stuff was just really appealing. Like going back to that part of, done it once, could have do it again, but also internationalize it at the same time. And I mean, so far so good. So that's been that.
It is a really, I mean, I knew Ben before you joined actually, and it's actually a
Yes.
really mature thing to do to say, actually, this person can come in and be my boss. That was, he's spoken to me about it before, and I'm like, wow, that's I suppose, both a brave and really mature thing to do.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I mean the most enjoyable thing about working with Ben before and after, if that makes sense, the kind of pre me joining and after me joining is like the guy has just got one of the best growth mindsets that I've ever met. Like, he's just completely focused on the success of the company and the growth of himself. He's very honest. Like he wants to be CRO one day. I'm sure he'll want to take my seat one day. Um, but he's very conscious of the fact that he wants to learn, and when he takes that seat, he wants to be the best that he can possibly be. So, yeah, he's incredible, and like you said, he made that transition really, really smooth as well. He was great on that side. There was no awkwardness. I mean, it was his idea, so that was the thing that made it so good.
It's a really interesting company. I mean, I first met Tim weirdly in Cape Town. He was doing one of these sort of digital nomad work for 3 or 4 months in Cape Town. So we talked about Sourcewell and talked about the partnership we required whilst going to see some penguins. So I don't think I've ever done a business deal with penguins in the background, but that was
Love that.
definitely a first for me. But I think what really struck me about the product is that just how single-minded he was about the vision for it and
Yeah.
knowing where it sort of sits against the competitors. So I guess what makes it special. I mean, I think with all of the tools out there as well, what makes it stand apart from everything?
It's a great question. It's really interesting. I'll probably touch on Tim for a second and then maybe answer that question a little bit more directly. I think Tim's an incredible leader, and particularly because of his like single-minded focus on product. Like he's so intensely focused on product and continues to be even now. Even as we've grown to a large amount of customers and a large team. Um, and I think that his passion for that comes from his belief that, if you have a really great product, and you're continuously innovate on that and you're continuously, building features better than maybe what the competition have, then go to market almost becomes like, you're starting on ground zero. His thing to me is often you find that in tech companies that go to market -2 or -3 to kind of make up for product efficiency. Whereas, if I can give you a product that is actually industry leading, then, you can bring together all your ideas and go and do it. Co-founder, CTO, is also fantastic. I mean, guy's so intelligent. Both of them went to Cambridge, or both of them went to Oxford. I can't remember. Both of them went to one of them, and then Harry went to the other.
It wasn't
In
Reading
addition,
University like me then, no.
well, I didn't go to university, so you've at least got one up on me. But even our development team are all ex-Oxford, ex-Cambridge. Kind of data sciences, PhDs, etc. So, really, really incredible in that sense. So. I can talk about the features that make us different, but the engine I think behind it is the reason why those features exist. I think the main differentiators that we have as a business and as a product is that there's nobody that really truly focuses on both business development and candidate sourcing. You can buy kind of cheap email automation tools that focus on like high volume mass mail, but really where Sourcewell's strength comes as one is it's focused on both the candidate sourcing and business development sides. We understand that there's nuance to each of those approaches. It's multi-channel, so it's email, phone, LinkedIn, general tasks. There's a lot that goes into it. We have a significant depth of integration with over 67 different recruitment CRMs as well. So when you use Sourcewell, you use it and you don't have to then go and mark in your system that you made that phone call or you sent that email. Sourcewell does that all for you. And then the final piece, sorry, because this is a long-winded answer, is the depth of it. So because of Tim's insane focus on product, we do like crazy things that people go, oh, that's really cool, but they would never have thought of. So, for example, out of office detection. So when you get a bounce back that says, hey, I'm out of the office till next week, we pause any tasks or emails that we serve up to that recruiter because you don't want to continue to hassle that person when they're out of the office, right? So we automatically push it through. Or if you're a recruiter doing the American market, we have automatic time zone detection. So say, rather than saying, hey, Andy, 9 o'clock this morning, you've got 50 calls to make. Um, we're going to serve you up the calls that are in the UK, and then later that day we'll serve you up the ones that are done for the East Coast or the West Coast or whatever it might be. So it doesn't seem like a lot, but those are the things that actually make a difference. When if you're trying to make a recruiter more efficient and reduce their admin, you really need to be doing all of that stuff as well, right? And on the day to day.
I was going to say, so your it not only helps the company on that sort of corporate level of outreach, but also as well individual consultants. And I think that's probably the thing that I see a lot of the systems are sort of built for like super users and that, but this
Yeah.
really impacts, little Billy, the recruiter.
Exactly that. And that's the thing. Like we put Sourcewell in the hands directly of the consultants. So you're absolutely bang on. This isn't controlled centrally by a marketing department or a sales director or anything. It is the consultant themselves. And all we're doing, we're not trying to change the way that we work. All we're trying to do is help them do more of the work that they currently do. And essentially what it all boils down to is can we let these recruiters spend more time on the phone or at face-to-face meetings? That's it. So can we give them more time back so that they're on the phone more often with clients and candidates, or they're meeting with clients and candidates more often? And if we can continue to do that in other ways, which we're hoping to do around the ecosystem, then I think that's probably going to be a big one for most businesses.
I think if we were to look across the groups, the biggest theme is around business development. So we I think we saw, and I don't know how you've seen this, you've probably joined Sourcewell at a point where the market was just starting. Probably you had 6 months of, everyone's printing money.
Yeah.
You didn't need to do biz dev, could just open the window and in would come the jobs. And it was candidates that was the difficult thing. But yeah, it's effectively biz dev is the biggest problem on every founder, every sales director's, to-do list right now.
Yeah. Exactly that, 100%. It was really interesting. So you take a new role in a board seat in charge of the commercial parts of a business, and then like you said, you get a massive macro hit. It's always a bit of a bit of an adjust. But we've tripled revenue in the business over the last 2.5 years, which has obviously been a massive achievement. But a lot of that has been, like you're saying, leaning into what the customers are saying and what the market's saying, which is we need to win more jobs. Now buying Sourcewell doesn't, you don't just buy Sourcewell and then all of a sudden jobs appear. But what it does do is get you into more conversations with people, and that's the key thing, right? Like if I can have more conversations with businesses, whether they're hiring now or in the future, then I'm going to be top of mind. But we see that a lot in the industry right now. Actually, interestingly though, I was out for breakfast with someone last week, and they told me they had too many jobs, and I was like, wow, I've not heard that in like 2 years. So that's quite a nice thing. So, maybe we're starting to
New
see
jobs, but
things.
have they let all their consultants go? This is I think one of the interesting things for me is that this sort of it's riding the wave, and I
Yeah,
think I think I think the best firms out there are very good at scaling and sailing, shrinking. So just following the wave as it happens, just being right sized, and just following just following what their data tells them actually more than anything.
yeah. Totally. Do you think then, like, because that's a really good point, right? Like, if we look forward to not trying to ask you what you think the recruitment industry will look like in 10 years or anything, right? But even like over the next 12 months, do you think most people have cut too much and then there's going to be this like kind of little bounce back, we're going to hire again? Or do you think because we've thrown AI into the mix, actually there'll be an exploration of like could technology prevent us from hiring too many people again? Or like, I don't know. I feel like it's a really weird point.
I've got two things that I'd sort of say on this. First off, I think a lot of people have focused on survival, and we've
Yeah.
seen a fair few businesses that were pretty good businesses 2 or 3 years ago, 2 years ago, and just over leveraged. The offices were too big. They had probably too much tech. Too many
Yeah.
LinkedIn licenses, and we've probably seen more liquidations and administrations than I've seen since that. So anyone
Totally.
who's in business now, is doing well. That's first and foremost. But I think when I speak to people, everyone's in a sort of survival mode. And I think the best firms are the ones that will be coming out of that now and trusting their data and
Yeah.
actually trusting what's gone before is that there will be an increase. You look at the macro, the interest rates coming down, surety in the UK, at least employment market with the election. Yeah, I think summer's been relatively quiet, but I think, we're
Yeah.
seeing really good signs in September, October. So I think those who are brave enough to brave enough to invest now will get the dividends. I think if you wait and then follow the pack, I think you'll be like everyone. And the same way it was the same way round when people were cutting. If
Yeah.
people were thinking, oh well, it's just it's a blip, it's a month, and no one wants to think the party's ended. But if people have trusted their data, then maybe in a different. So I actually think it's probably, I think, the fourth downturn I've been in since being in the industry, but I think it certainly will come back. Whether it comes back in the same way,
Hmm.
as you say, I think it'd be different. My thing around AI is, I think the skills recruiters going to have to use will be slightly different. I've done a post on this on LinkedIn, but you're going to have effectively artificial intelligence, generative AI writing job specs. You're then going to have bots on behalf of candidates applying for relevant jobs. With the then you're going to have them screened by an AI. So, and actually at some point it's going to be like this massive war games until you get
Yeah.
to talking. So in certain ways, I think Gen AI will change and reduce some of the tasks, but I think it will really I think it has also the ability to make it super complex.
Yeah. That's a really, really good read of it. I think that the market overall is going to go through. I think that recruitment is going to change quite a lot over the next 5 years. I don't think it's changed a lot in the last 5 years, is my honest opinion. I think it's going to change more over the next five than it has in the previous. A big part of that for me, though, is also like when you look at things like early 2000s, right, when everybody was moving from like on-prem to cloud technology. The businesses that were the leaders of those markets are not the businesses that are now the leaders of the current market, right? So like Siebel was like the top CRM and now it's Salesforce.com. And actually they were, Oracle, and Mark Benioff left Oracle and went and built Salesforce. And one of the things I was talking to somebody and they were saying is like this concept of like whispers. So like, the whispers in the hallway of like what the market and what the world might look like in 5 or 10 years. Often those people with those whispers, many of them don't act on it, but
Mm.
actually often those people and these market leaders are the people that go off and create the thing that then displaces that market leader in 10, 15, 20 years time. So I just wonder like how much recruitment's going to change. I think actually as like a recruitment business owner right now, I'd probably be looking at it saying, how can we make sure that we don't become the disrupted and like we continue and we're actually the disruptor? And I think that's going to be it's a challenge, right? When you've got a set way of doing things and have always done it a certain way and people in the business. I don't know if you're hearing anybody talk about that or if everyone's like, let's just get back and get more people on the phone and just be grateful we've got some jobs on again.
Yeah, I think it will be different. And I was having this chat with CEO at one of the listed companies, and their view is that those sort of lower jobs probably will be the ones that are disrupted by technology. So sort of low permanent salaries, transactional, blue
Yeah.
collar with booking platforms. The trouble with disruption is everyone always looks at if you read Hayden Christensen's book, and I just put that link in just to piss off Dolter, who really doesn't like people quoting books. But
Love
if
it.
you read Innovator's Dilemma,
Yeah.
they talk about the steel mills, and first off they were mini mills, and then the big steel guys were like, fine, it's only the small stuff, all the small stuff, and then they got so good at that they just upped the production, and they did disrupt. So I think we will start to see some form of disruption, but agencies are very good at changing to the need and adapting.
Yeah.
So an agency by its very nature is a broker. So the broker simply moves to create that marketplace. So
Yeah.
I'm old enough in the industry to remember being told that JobServe was going to disrupt recruitment, that the internet was going to disrupt recruitment, that internal recruitment teams are going to be the norm. RPOs are going to take over everything. LinkedIn will no one will need it. And actually what you found is in every time agencies have used that to their
Yeah.
advantage, because the other thing I think when you work in recruitment is you think it's the only thing you do. So if you're a manager, hiring's probably like 5%, maybe even less of what you actually do. So if you can
Yeah.
actually just push that out, then people are always going to want to do that. The one caveat I would say to that is the thing that I feel that agencies need to change, and where in-house, my view used to be in-house, they're just failed recruiters, they're on a cushy life, and it's a company doing it on the cheap.
Yeah.
Um, they actually represent the company and they represent the EVP of the company. They represent, not just their fee.
Yeah.
And I think the trick for agencies is they've got to work more on behalf of the customer, and
Yeah.
effectively align with their values as well. And I think, but like I say, agencies are pretty good at being reactive to that.
Yeah. Listen, it's a really fair point. Just your note on internal. Our head of TA, Hannah, is like is the single best recruiter that I've ever worked with, like in my entire career. And I mean like either and when I was in recruitment or that I've seen outside it. And like she is unbelievable. Like if I had to start, if somebody said to me, you must start a recruitment business tomorrow, like you have no choice, you have to do it. Here's money to go and do it, and that's the only thing you can do. First thing I would do before I buy tech and anything else is go and hire Hannah. Like she's incredible, right, at the work that she does. But I think it's so rare, right, to find to find someone who's that incredible and can add so much value. Your point though around and if I'm taking this off on too much of a tangent, feel free to pull me back because I've got loads of points I could make on it. Um, your point around like the businesses adopting and moving in different ways is I do think though like the small steel mills and then the big guys weren't worried about it. If I was like a PLC or like a larger business right now, I don't know if the model moving forward would be to continue to just hire a bunch of grads again and then grow it up and then grow it up and grow it up. Like I wonder if I trading on these like people who are building these like micro communities almost within the industries that they're specialists in, acquiring those companies, but not acquiring them in terms of like acquiring them and then they become part of big recruitment PLC, almost acquiring them as part of this kind of larger group where they continue to function in their way in which they've developed, which allows them to service that community in the right way. Like if I was trying to build revenue, I feel like that might be an angle, but it'll be interesting. I don't know. I don't know how it's going to play out, but I do think, and something I've heard from a couple of PLC board members in the recruitment space over lunch, is that they do feel that margins in the near term are likely to be squeezed.
Mm.
Not just because of the downturn and the lack of available jobs, but also because of this initial flux of AI tools where people are going to perceive, it's obviously not true, but perceive that recruitment is something that can be done at a lower cost, and such. So again, I don't know if you've spoke to anyone about that or like that kind of combination of them both putting applying pricing pressure.
It reminds me of the Vietnam War. Basically, Ho Chi Minh said we've been fighting this war for 1,000 years, and it's very, very similar. Um, you know, it's not just AI that's rocked up to the party. This push around margins, this push, this pressure has been happening for years.
Yeah.
When I joined recruiting in 1999, the average biller was about 120 grand. I don't think that's changed. So
That's a good point.
it actually, and you think of all the wage inflation, that must have gone, so what you've actually seen is a steady erosion of both the amount of, with competition, but with the amount of deals, that people are doing as individuals, but also as well probably in the margins. And there's various
Yeah.
different things for that. Like you say, I think you've seen offshoring, you've seen outsourcing, you've seen RPO, you've seen just more sophisticated procurement
Yeah.
as recruitment's evolved as an industry and a thing. So yeah, I think there's been constant pressure. What I'd say to the bigger firms have to manage that, and they'll do that through automation, costs, scale, et cetera, et cetera. I think the smaller firms are actually able to then sort of pivot around it, and there will be some prime opportunities there, and and if they're able to sort of navigate that, and they don't need thousands and thousands of jobs, they just need a few good ones. So I
Exactly.
think it's
That's
I
huge.
think it's the middle companies that really will be the ones that find it very, very difficult to not, because they're not quite able to move, as adapted as the boutiques, and they haven't got the financial sort of scale and protection really of the bigger firms. So I think, that sort of what we call them scale up, are the ones that, and if they can get through to the bigger firms, they'll be super successful. But that's the challenge for them, to get through and get those,
Yeah.
get that headcount 50, 100, 150. Not seeing too many firms breaking that at the moment.
Nah, and but you're right though, right? Like going back to your earlier point, like there's so much opportunity for innovation, and I actually think that's where it's going to be really exciting. Like I think you can get caught up in this idea of like AI and pricing pressure and margins and everything else, but actually, if you're passionate about the industry and you have a way in which you think you can connect and communicate with people in a different way, like I think people are going to be more open to doing things differently. Like I've got this mad idea, right? Where actually you start a go-to-market hiring recruitment business and you apply it, but like I say, and I'm sure there's probably a version of this that takes place already, and I'm reinventing the wheel. But rather than a CSM being a customer success manager, they're a candidate success manager, and you take people like account executives, but you place them into businesses not with a perm fee, but like almost in like a monthly ongoing charge. So that you're saying to the person like, hey, we've got these, AEs, you pick the right person, you bring them in, and that's how you build out that initial team or your SDR team or whatever it might be. And you're almost then applying like the contract methodology to a market that doesn't typically have contractors. And you're candidate success manager is the person who's continuing to like build that community, is training these people, is offering, is doing community work with them, and no matter how experienced they are, is kind of almost coaching them through that career. So you go and do 2 years at Sourcewell, and when that 2 years is up, that person's taken and goes and joins RecWired, right? And then does their AE role there, and there's like an ongoing charge as part of that throughout their career. But whether people would be willing to accept that type of charging model or not, I don't know. I just feel like there's stuff 10 times better than that I think people could go and do. And I think now is the time to think differently. Because I genuinely think people would be open to trying something a little bit different right now, as the market comes back.
Yeah, I think the big trend I'm seeing as well, and I don't know if you've seen this, is offshoring. So
Yes.
living in Cape Town, I probably get a call once every 2 weeks around do you know anyone where we can, outsource our accounts to, outsource our resourcing to. So yeah, I see that's another way that people will look to improve margins because,
Totally.
and I would say as well that the cost is one factor, but actually, the quality of some of the offshore locations is just amazing now as well.
I love that. It's not something that I've had much exposure to personally, but I've, like you said, it's something I'm aware of. And I know that more and more people are trying to do, are trying to do it, but some are doing it very successfully. So I'll defer to your good knowledge on that one because I can't comment.
So you talked earlier about the States. So I think the last British company to break the States was the Beatles. So how are you getting on with that?
Yeah, oh, hopefully I'm Paul McCartney. People in the US now, pretty much all across the place, hired. But I mean, one of the best things was, it goes back to hiring good people, right? Like that's really the key to it. Like product's great, but you then need to have the right people and the right process in place, the three Ps. Hired a great VP of sales there, a guy called Scott, who was 13 years at Zoom Info, two acquisitions and an IPO with them. So he
Wow.
he knows what it takes. And then a great SDR manager in Martin, who again knows what it takes to kind of get things off the ground from a scrappy perspective. And then we've just brought in really good talent. So it's been great. It's been good fun. It's been a lot of long nights. It's not been linear, but um, it's it's a really high performing business delivering really strong quarter on quarter growth. And I think like probably over the next 18 months, they'll become a bigger proportion of our annual recurring revenue than their UK base will. So yeah, let's see what happens. But it's been good fun.
The other big sort of takeaway for me actually over the last few years is the businesses that have done really well have that reoccurring revenue. And yeah, for recruitment firms, that's often contract businesses. But I think
Yes,
recruitment firms could learn a lot from software businesses around how they scale, how they grow, how they actually realize that the cost of acquisition of customers is very high compared to keeping the ones you have. And I think
exactly.
recruitment businesses could do a lot better with that. You never know how true stats are, but I'm sure I saw something on LinkedIn the other day that's saying the average recruitment firm churns 60% of its customers in a
Yeah.
year.
So that was I was actually in a webinar with one of the big CRMs, and they are one of the guys there, Joe McGuire, actually had that, like that was a data stat that they had from the last 12 months. And I just thought that was wild, like working in software, I wouldn't have a job basically if I'm responsible for making sure that we acquire customers and keep them. And if our churn was 60%, like I wouldn't be on this podcast, right? So that's just a mad number that I couldn't even comprehend. But I get it. Like there does seem to be this tendency on a desk basis to like fish for new, both clients and candidates, by the way. Like, because there's always that thing, isn't there? Like, you acquire candidates through LinkedIn that you already have in your database X number, X% of the time. But I don't know how you change that.
The weirdest thing for me was that, so when we used to work I worked at Huxley, so it was the banking brand. So you had to be a bit careful, but every time you ever made a placement, the first thing you did was set them to no mail shot. So I mean, so actually, we were so shit scared of sending him something that was wrong. We actually sent him nothing that was right, and it's
It's
amazing. I mean,
mad.
it's almost like Tesco's loyalty club scheme. Never sending you a voucher just in case, or any marketing just in case you didn't want a credit card, or it's
It's
just
mad.
crazy. So I think I actually think recruiters as well. You just need to look inside what they already have as well and focus on that, because it's a lot easier to develop those customers than it is new ones.
Completely. Exactly that. And like as long as you have enough spread so that you're not becoming too concentrated in one or
Mm.
two single accounts, because I think that's obviously been a problem as well, right, over the last couple of years where people haven't spread their wings enough as well on some occasions. But um listen, it absolutely is. Like you've proven that you can do a good job. So justifying costs and listen, everybody has to justify their cost. We have to. It's business, right? You have to be able to demonstrate value. So if you've already done that part, that's normally one of the hardest parts, I would say, of like a new business sales process. Then the expansion from there is possible. But again, does that mean that businesses need to invest more in client development managers and more marketing strategies and more community work and more candidate success managers, like if you're trying to apply it to software and recruitment, probably. And I think that's maybe where the appetite wanes. But even just having your existing 360 consultant calling into existing accounts more often is probably a good place to start, like you said.
Yeah, you never want to hear bad news. You never want to hear that your contract is being terminated. So you just yeah, I'm not gonna call the manager. Um,
You always self-fulfilling prophecy though, right? Like you don't want
yeah,
to hear the bad news, so you end up not doing something that actually causes that bad
yeah,
news itself.
could actually help that somewhere along the way. Um, so what's your view of the market currently? So in the groups, one of the things for founders and one of the positive things about the groups is that, as a recruitment owner, you're often very alone. But I think,
Yes.
yeah, so you obviously work with hundreds of businesses. What's the general take and view over what's your end of Q? Well, what's your view of the market now, state of the nation, and what's
Yeah.
going to happen towards the end of this year?
It's how we've experienced it at Sourcewell and how I view the market are maybe slightly different things. I would say that this year's definitely been a tougher year for the recruitment industry. And I think that in the last couple of months, I think basically what's happened is people come into the year and thinking, end of February, start of March, things are going to look good. And then it probably didn't good as what they thought. And then they thought, maybe towards the second half of Q2 will be okay. And then that didn't happen. And then we had the election come out. And then it's been this kind of, or, the election had to come and everything else. So I think actually, and then the summer's hit. So I think we've kind of almost had these like little false hopes maybe twice throughout the year so far. I think actually it's going to be third time lucky. I think October, November time, people are going to come to market. We are going to see a little bit of a boost. Certainly, the conversation that I'm having from people is that
Mm.
sentiment is better. And let's be honest, most of the time people make their sales plans or hiring plans based upon how they feel, right? Like I feel that this data is something that is either going to get better or can be improved. Like, so you really just want confidence, don't you, in hiring businesses, and I certainly think that sentiment's being replicated. Bit of an interesting one in the US market because their exposure there obviously means that the election that's coming up there is playing in some people's minds. I
Mm.
don't really get the impression and without going into politics, I don't really get the impression that anybody is feeling a massive shift either way now that it's a kind of Harris or Trump. Like I think before there was maybe more of a kind of disconnect between their future hopes dependent on what was happening. So yeah, this is a long-winded answer. State of the nation is it's been tough. I think there's been a couple of false peaks, but I think actually the October November rush will be good, and then the hope is that December January doesn't depress anyone, and that it's a good start to the year. What about you?
Yeah, we've been calling Q4 this year,
Yeah,
probably for about 3 or 4 months actually.
nice.
Summer's generally a bit cooler, as you know, as you'd expect. But that confidence is definitely starting to come back. I think we've certainly not we don't not seeing it any worse. Hasn't got any worse, and I think people are right sized.
Completely.
People are ready to go. So I think that's pretty much what we're seeing across the groups. I think anyone who's here now can be expecting, hopefully, to for things to grow, and across the advisories as well. I was at FCSA, and a lot of the payroll companies,
Yes.
June was difficult because there was the election, government shuts down during an election.
Yeah.
So I think now that's certainly for the UK market out of the way. I think you'll start to see some definite growth. Um, Obviously, one of the things that has happened recently, and someone that you knew incredibly well, and I was lucky enough to meet on a few occasions. You talked about him at Odro, but I was actually on holiday when I got a message through about Ryan, and it was like,
Yeah.
wow, just didn't feel real. So, and I guess as his best mate and someone who worked with
Yeah.
him for a number of years, yeah, yeah,
Yeah. It's tough one, right? And I think, like, obviously it's I think the sudden nature of it, I think, took everybody by surprise, right? I was chatting to him on the Friday night on the phone, and he was going out on a motorbike ride on the Saturday morning, and I think it just shows you how quickly things can change, right? And that's a traffic accident, and that's it. So yeah, listen, it's a hard one to take, but listen, the guy was absolutely incredible. If I think of what he was able to build at Odro, and where he was able to take it from, and I think one of the things, I spoke at his funeral. I was lucky enough. His wife Roisin was great to give me the opportunity and ask me to kind of speak at his funeral about the success that Ryan had in business over the years. She spoke about him as a husband. His brother spoke about him as a brother and a family man as well, and they both did an incredible job. And when I was speaking about the impact that he had on business, I think, like, the key thing for him was he always had this concept. He would talk about the three masks. So it's a kind of Japanese proverb which says, people have three masks: one that you show to the outer world, one that you show to your close friends and family, and the third is the one that you only truly reveal to yourself. And the saying goes that the more closely aligned those are, the happier that you'll be in your life. And I think, like, from an authenticity perspective, I think he cracked that. Like, the Ryan that you saw on LinkedIn was the Ryan, and as you know, that you would meet
yeah,
in person, was the same guy as he was when he was up the road with his wife and kids. And I think that kind of genuine nature allowed him to connect with people. I think it made people feel like they connected with him, and then it gave him that opportunity to have such an impact. So yeah, listen, big loss. Like, I spoke to him, over WhatsApp 20, 30 times a day. It's hard not being able to just pick up the phone and have a chat and stuff. But grateful for obviously all the time that I got with him, and grateful, I think, that he's able to had or was able to have such a big impact on a lot of people as well.
yeah. I think genuinely. So my fiance is not recently joined actually the recruitment industry, and she's been in it a year, and she saw the video that Odro produced, and
Yeah,
it was the amount of love for him as well. That's genuine.
totally.
I think sometimes you see some sort of false platitudes, but I think just the amount that sort of you've seen, and I think everyone had something that really sort of connected them to him, a story, and just
Yeah,
to see some of those come out. So, I think it's a massive loss, obviously to his family, to his friends, to
totally.
and to the industry as well. So, yeah, devastated to hear that, and obviously, just making sure you're okay as well. And, I
Totally.
mean, yeah, because, a loss like that, I can't imagine. So, yeah, but
No, thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. And that's the thing as well. It's like you said, it's a tough one, right? Like, it's hard to take. His wife and his kids obviously, feel that, I suppose, more than any of his family do as well. But one thing I'd say is that his wife Roisin has been unbelievable. Some of the things that she's done and been able to do to kind of, would make him extremely proud. So it's easy enough for me to sit here and say how hard it is for me. Ryan had loads of best mates. He was my best mate, but he had many best mates, if that makes sense. And I know a lot of people felt that really strong connection to him in that way as well. But obviously his wife and his kids are the closest to him, and I think they're doing an incredible job as well.
yeah, okay. Well, really sad, but great guy, and I think memory will definitely live on. Um,
Totally.
so I don't want to end it on that. So,
Of course.
Sourcewell, how big is this going to go?
I think we're going to go big, man. I really do. Like, I'm feeling like we're just heads down focused on growth at the minute. Um, you know, we're over 1,200 customers now, and the question is like, do we get to, let's get to 2,000, and then when we get to 2,000, could we reach 5,000? Like there's just like, it's incredible numbers, right? That we're there, but I just think like the American market is huge for us. We've got such a big product roadmap and like so many exciting things that we're going to be bringing out, even just in like the coming weeks, that I think are going to really change people's perception of what Sourcewheel can and will do for them in the future. So, yeah, I'm really excited by it. I'm really excited by it. But going back to that book we spoke about at the very start and talking about the disruption in the industry, we can't rest on our laurels, right? We've been great and we've done really well during a tough market, but people are going to continue to innovate. We need to make sure that we're disrupting ourselves and doing that. And I think, we're on that journey right now. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. How big do you think it's going to go? I suppose is the question. And you don't need to make me feel good.
Think we use the product and it's awesome. As you say,
Thank you.
The challenges around keeping that lead.
Yeah,
And again, as like we say, as the needs of the agency change, or the needs of the hirers change, or the needs of the sources change, just
yeah,
being in tune with that product. I mean, we've probably seen it ourselves with RecWired. We built a network for 4 years. It's great. But last year we realized that we have to keep offering more. So we built
yeah.
the training development, the advisory platform. We brought in Dan Alexander to come and help us with that, because we were
Nice.
listening to where people need it. And I think it can go really, really big. And I'm really interested to know where the product goes as well, subsequently as well. So,
Lovely.
yeah, I think, I say when I met Tim, his single-mindedness was, no, this is, really, really clear on that. And I think he's just got that focus. He's actually got the focus of, no, the classic Henry Ford thing of giving people what they didn't know they needed, but also
Exactly.
listening to what they need as well, which is actually quite rare, because you've either got people who are super single-minded who know what they want, or everyone who just listens to the customer. And
Yeah.
to actually have that nice blend of both is pretty. So I think you do all right.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's listen back to this in a couple of years and see what happens,
Definitely,
right?
definitely. So, if people want to see Sourcewell or chat to you, how do they
Yes.
go about it? How do they?
Absolutely. So if you want to go down the normal route, check out the website, sourcewhale.com. If you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, obviously Dougie Loan, and drop me a message. I'm more than happy to give you a show around myself. I can still do a good demo, so I'm happy to do that. Or I can put you in touch with one of the team if you'd rather not hear my Scottish accent. So yeah, feel free to drop me a message.
We'll post the link on underneath. So I guess it's down there underneath this at some point. So cool, Dougie. Thanks so much. Been it's great as always. I think we started as rivals trying to sell video, and it's
Here we are as friends.
yeah, it's great to see. So don't leave it 2 years. Come back a bit sooner than that, and yeah, good luck cracking America and with the growth this year.
Perfect. Thanks, Andy. Cheers for having me. I appreciate it.
Cheers.